Hi everyone, and today I'm going to be filming a video discussing my experience with medication for Tourette's, and just make sure to remember this is just my own experience because different things work for different people and it's usually a trial and error process because some medications can have side effects and people have different levels of receptivity to different medications, and there are also other treatment options other than medication that can be highly effective for some people. Now, Tourette's is usually treated through antipsychotic medication, also known as neuroleptics, but can also be treated through clonidine and topiramate. Now, the co-occurring conditions such as OCD and ADHD can also be managed through medication as well. So for OCD, it's usually SSRI antidepressants, and for ADHD, it's usually stimulants. But different things work for different people, and again, for the co-occurring conditions, there are other options. And to get medication prescribed and to see what works for you, it usually helps to see a neurologist or psychiatrist or another specialist along those lines. Now, my first medication I went on was sertraline, and that was for my OCD diagnosis, and it was intended to help with the compulsions and rituals, but unfortunately it didn't reduce them because we realised that I have Tourettic OCD rather than classic OCD. And the main difference is that classic OCD is linked to anxiety and intrusive thoughts, whereas Tourettic OCD is sensation-based. But because sertraline works with the anxiety, it didn't decrease the rituals and stuff. And the reason I went on sertraline in the first place was because my rituals, I had such a sudden onset and overnight became severely disabled, and my OCD was taking more than 8 hours out of my day, and CBT obviously didn't work, so we went for the medication. And even though it didn't help my rituals, it still did help me in regards to my anxiety levels and confidence, because my dad got a phone call from my year 4 teacher saying, "What's happened to Romy?" Because he noticed that I was suddenly talking more and I was actually coming out of my shell, because prior to that I was so anxious that I was shy and I wouldn't speak to anyone. So sertraline did really help with my self-esteem and allow me to speak freely. And I remember that after about a year of being on sertraline, I did try to go off it, but it caused panic attacks, so I was actually on sertraline for quite a while. The second medication I went on was when I was 12 years old. It was risperidone. The decision to go on an antipsychotic or put the child on an antipsychotic can be difficult for some parents because there can be a stigma, and antipsychotics are strong drugs and it can be very frightening to think about, and parents worry about that. And I know my dad didn't really want to put me on antipsychotics, but at the time we didn't have a choice because I had no quality of life and I was severely disabled and had no independence and was reliant on my parents for everything. They were dressing me, they were sleeping in a room with me, brushing my teeth for me, carrying me because I was so severely disabled, and I would beg them to make it stop. And I also had very, very severe rage attacks where I would hit, kick, scream, throw things, swear and shout, and it was absolutely horrific to live with. And I had no free time as well because my compulsions were still taking about 8 hours out of every day. So we went on risperidone because we didn't really have any other option and I needed something to give me a quality of life. I was quite reluctant to go or even stay on the risperidone when I first started because I'd got so accustomed to being severely disabled that I didn't really want to let go of it because I didn't know what life was going to be like. There's too much uncertainty and I'm autistic, so uncertainty wasn't very good for me, and I was going on medication. I was like, well, what's going to happen? What's going to change? And when I went on the risperidone, I did have severe neurological and psychiatric reactions from the green food dye. And if you watch my video, My Week on Food Dye, I discuss it there. But thankfully, I was able to find a brand without the food dye in, and we just had to make sure that my psychiatrist writes that on every prescription so I could get that brand. And it was like a miracle drug after that, because the premonitory urge, which is the sensation and urge before a tic, was melting away, and I could feel that. And that was very relieving for me, actually, because the urges were so strong, and it finally felt like I was getting peace and like a break from it. And for the first year, it was like a miracle drug because it did reduce my tics by about 99% and suddenly gave me a quality of life where I could do everything pretty much that everyone else my age was doing, and I was no longer severely disabled. And it did also completely remove my rage attacks and Tourettic OCD. And it was absolutely incredible that one medication could have that much effect. But after about a year, or maybe a year and a half, it did gradually stop working, and my tics did come back severely, and by that time it was only reducing them by about 40% from the original state. But thankfully the rage and Tourettic OCD never actually returned. But my tics, it was coprolalia, severe motor tics, like severe vocal tics that were full phrases and stuff, so I was again disabled by it. So we were looking into other options, and with the side effects from risperidone, I did have borderline high blood sugar, because some people with atypical antipsychotics, it does affect the blood sugar levels, but thankfully it didn't get any higher than that. And when you're on medications, you do, of course, have to have tests for side effects just to check up and stuff. I had a lot of blood tests. They have to check your height and weight, blood pressure, and I did have an ECG once just to make sure it wasn't affecting my heart, but thankfully it wasn't. But they have to go through the test just to make sure that you're safe, and thankfully I was. But now it's actually incredible because I am medication free. And that feels very strange to say because we thought that would never happen. If you look at how much my condition affected me when I was younger, if you would have told me that I would have been able to live without medication, I would have just laughed and said that's impossible, because I thought I would have to be on it for the rest of my life. And I just thought that I wouldn't be able to even live without it. So now that I'm off medication, I'm incredibly grateful that I've got an improved quality of life, and my tics now are still very minimal, and I know I don't have any rage attacks or Tourettic OCD, as I manage my Tourette's through diet/allergen elimination to decrease the inflammation in my brain. And when the inflammation goes down, I no longer have those severe symptoms and I'm no longer disabled, so I'm so grateful for that. And the withdrawal, thankfully, the withdrawal process wasn't actually too bad. I was very scared because I had read about all these withdrawal effects, and I'd read about the potential of symptoms coming back, and thankfully they haven't. But I went down on risperidone very, very slowly because I was taking it 3 times a day, and I just had to take them down and then start breaking the tablets up, and thankfully I was able to go off that without any effects. And that was over actually a long period of time as well. But with the sertraline, I did come off it a lot faster, and thankfully the withdrawal effects weren't severe, but I did have quite a lot of dizziness and struggled to walk in a straight line. But it was actually, I can laugh at myself now because it was quite funny, because it was Christmas and I just looked like I was drunk because I was like stumbling everywhere. But that's gone now and I'm completely fine now, which is great. And as I said, my symptoms are still minimal, and I'm incredibly grateful for that, because again, it's like a miracle, because we never thought that would even be possible. But different things work for different people, and I found that I am highly receptive to diet and my rage attacks as well, because they're triggered by food dyes and tic suppression. Now that my tics are mild, there's no need, like obviously there's never any need for suppression, and now that I obviously don't eat food dyes, I don't experience the rage attacks, which is great because I have a quality of life that I thought I'd never have. So there is hope. And I've also been discharged from CAMHS now. And if you don't know, CAMHS is Child and Adolescent Mental Health Service here in the UK. And I was under them for 8 years, and I'm been discharged. And it was quite funny because my psychiatrist had actually left and I got a new one. And pretty much as soon as I walked in, I was saying how I would like to be discharged. So it was like, hi, bye, I'm going now. But I've left now, which is great, because that seems very strange as well, because if you said that when I was younger, that I would be discharged from CAMHS early, then I would have thought that was quite strange, because I thought that I was going to be disabled for the rest of my life. So I'm incredibly grateful that this has all worked out, and I hope that by discussing my experiences with medication, it can help some people make choices about how they wish to manage their condition, and I hope that it gives you an awareness on this and my perspective and my experience. So I hope this helps, and just remember, I'm not a medical professional and this is just my own experience, and see a neurologist or psychiatrist or other doctor if you need advice on medication. Thank you for watching. Bye!